I don't think as a kid you're actually thinking through the actual reality of that death actually exists in that way.
I have no regrets, because at the time I was doing what I saw as my duty, which was to be a commentator on matters which were affecting young people, and to try to do something about it.
Prepare to die! Aha!
While a lot of kids were samurai and ninjas in their heads, the truth was they just didn't look the part. The closest thing that a lot of them had to Japanese gear was their pyjamas. If only someone could sell them the real stuff.
Well, I think we were rather surprised in the beginning, but if there was a quid in it, we were going to be in it too.
The Lindsays were just one of the companies that made the spin-offs that gave the kids all the things they didn't know they needed, till they watched TV. Prized items such as jet black ninja outfits, complete with masks, were all the go.
Shintaro, all those who oppose me must surely die.
Samurai jackets. This is one samurai jacket. You'll see that it's got the yellow piping and the red colour. I'm not quite sure what the difference was, but that was one of the jackets. And this is the other. This was how it displayed in the store. This is a different type of jacket with a sash. They were available. Some lucky children had them when they were watching the samurai. I bought them when I was about 50, but I'm still the lucky man to have them. They are my samurai jackets.
It was one of the first shows that you could really buy merchandise for. I mean, if it was there today, it'd be $1 billion industry if it was today.
Often we were invited in to see a pilot and we'd know what it was like. And then we'd go back to the factory, you had the photo, and we did a paper pattern for everything we made. We had cutters who did that.
I give up.
Because they were already making cowboy and Indian outfits in the family business, TV arriving full, just riddled with American cowboy shows. He says it was like having $1 million worth of free advertising.
But the good stuff was the hardware. No self-respecting samurai or ninja could be without his sword.
There were plastic shuriken and plastic swords and the ninja suits, but we couldn't afford them anyway because we didn't have very much money. And the only one I would have liked were the plastic swords. They had a colour photograph of some of the characters in, which were not on the gum set, so they would have been quite good.
Although there were some things you just couldn't get.
Of course, I wanted blinding dust. That's what I wanted. I wanted blinding dust.
Take this! The Eager Ninja blinding trick!
Get him!
For the avid collector, there were the special samurai cards, the passport to a not-so-secret society.
As a result of the samurai, we had bubblegum cards. They cost sixpence a pack, and I think you got 3 cards per packet.
In classrooms across the nation, samurai cards became the bane of teachers' lives.
We'd be sitting around doing swapsies, and I can remember one time I had the set in my hands and it was on the lap and we were sort of doing this under the desk. It was in an art class, and the teacher, the headmistress, came in, so we all had to stand up and the cards went everywhere.
The cards themselves were interesting. They had scenes from the program, but on the back you put together a great big shot of Shintaro. So the cards were very exciting. That was something we could carry in our pocket and be very, very proud of. We could have a set of cards. And so we had everybody in the program in our hands. We could sleep with this under our pillow and dream at night. It was good.
Yeah. We wouldn't allow them to come to school, and exactly. We banned those, and we also banned the cards.
That's right. I am Shintaro.
By the time Channel 9 had screened the first series of 52 programs, it was clear that they had a samurai boom on their hands, whether they understood what was happening or not.
I thought it was very bold of them after the first block of samurai show they had, and they said, "Do you like this? If you liked us, let us know." Well, they were inundated, so they bought more. But I thought at the time that was very bold, because dubbed, television program, Japanese, how obscure is that?
Not only would there be more samurai programs, but the craze was about to reach a new height.
Kill him! Kill him!
The man himself was coming down under.
It's useless. They can't hear you.
"1965 had been a big year. Australia had gone from its slightly sleepy, self-contained self to being obsessed with samurais and ninjas. But just watching the samurai on TV wasn't enough. The time had come to bring Shintaro from Japan to meet his Australian fans. It would be an experience for both sides.
It was in the news, Shintaro is coming to Australia. I think I got whiplash spinning around to my mother and saying, I've got to go to the Sydney Stadium. She said, why? I said, Shintaro's on. Who's Shintaro? I said, just, look, can you organise it for me, please? I need to go to the Sydney Stadium to see Shintaro.
Christmas Day 1965, just 3 days short of a year since the first episode of The Samurai went to air. Shintaro, or at least the actor that played him, Koichi Ose, landed at Sydney Airport. The result was pandemonium. At last, Australian kids could get their hands on Shintaro.
My main recollection of it, frankly, is screaming fans, and particularly screaming teenagers, practically pushing the poor man over.
He's a very well-respected actor in Japan, and was at the time as well, which I think is why he was attracted to this series, because it was a highly artful, respectful series. Anyways, the poor bastard's come to Australia, and he's got 6-year-olds kicking the shit out of him because they want to get to him. The poor guy doesn't know what's going on.
Ose had been brought out by the sweets and candy makers, who were the force behind much of the merchandising.
When you think about it, I can't think of any other character that a gum manufacturer and card manufacturer bought out like that, or had a big part of a show there. I mean, certainly not. They had Starsky and Hutch, and they had all these other shows that were huge, you know, even movie cards, the Monkeys, etc. They never supported them like they supported Shintaro. There was a real mystique about him, I think, that Australia had never seen before, Australian kids had never seen before. Kids couldn't believe that this was the man who could do all of this, and here he was. It would blow your mind. You're watching this feudal Japan thing on television, and here he is in the full gear. Amazing.
大変だったですよ。もうなんか長い間ね。それでね、条件はね、飛行機降りる時にね、隠密検視の紛争して降りてくるって言うんですよ。ちょっと待ってくださいよ。ちんどん屋じゃないんだからね。それは勘弁してくれって思ったんです。でもどうしてもそれだけやってくれって言ってね、飛行機の中として降りてよかったなと思いましたよ。本当にそれは初めはね、ちんどん屋じゃないし恥ずかしいなと思ったんですけど、これはもう本当にね、興行師の言うことは当たってましたね。
But I was unaware that there had been an actual visit of Shintaro and the ninja to Australia until I discovered something one day which told me what had actually happened. And having seen what I discovered, I don't know how on earth I missed the fact that it had been on in the first place.
It must have been the Women's Weekly had a photo spread, I think, and I got wind of it being a bit of a... But I think I thought those who would have gone to see him were dicks.
But most kids couldn't wait. Anticipation among fans was intense. Performances played for 6 days, attracting 6,000 ninja-clad kids each time. All up, more people than saw the Beatles.
My dear old Uncle Jack has since been gathered, but took me to see the live samurai show at the Sydney Stadium, which isn't there anymore. It was a wood and tin structure that they had fights in. And Christmas in Sydney at the Sydney Stadium, you couldn't have got a hotter place to hold it. I'm there in my full ninja outfit, right, with the head thing on, the whole deal, with my sword. I'm going to see Shintaro. My Uncle Jack said that, you know, it was like a sea of ants because there were all these kids dressed as ninjas. And there you are on the wooden seats. They were the real bleachers there at Sydney Stadium. And it was the world's unbelievably hottest day. I was also a kid with a little bit of asthma. So you can imagine all these bad things coming together. I had the hood on and everything like that. And out comes the Samurai. For young boys at that age, it was just as good as the Beatles. It was like, wow, the Samurai, this is fantastic.
I was dressed up. I think I had an old dressing gown on of some variety to resemble a kimono or whatever. And I had my trusty 2 sticks down my belt and my star knives. I was dumbfounded at the show. I was just in shock. There were ninjas running everywhere, coming down on ropes and flash bombs going off and God knows what. And then Shintaro would appear and a beautiful white light there shining like a god. I was completely shocked. It was the first show I ever saw. And it was fabulous. It was so fabulous, the tour was expanded to Melbourne. When the news got out, 7,000 excited fans swamped Essendon Airport.
I went to Essendon Airport to see the Beatles arrive in 1964, and there were people lining the streets of Essendon watching them go past. And to have heard later on that there were more people to greet Shintaro at the airport in 1965 than there were for the Beatles was just an incredible thing to hear.
I think he drew a bigger crowd than Judy Garland, who was also on at Festival Hall around about that time.
Very much a pop star. There were screaming girls at the Festival Hall gig.
Newspapers were now suggesting Osei was hot in more ways than one.
そうです、そうです。それはもうやっぱり伊賀甲賀があったりいろいろね仕掛けもさっきも言ったようにありますから、これは人気も出る要素はたくさんあると思います。あとは私の魅力ですよ。
After a whirlwind 15-day tour and 12 live shows, a stunned Koichi Osei returned to Japan, astonished by his reception. Back in Australia, rival network Channel 7 was looking for a samurai of its own.
Channel 7 had a brilliant stroke of genius and thought, well, if they're doing all right with a Japanese show, we should get one ourselves.
With the success of Samurai, we were looking for more of the same. It's always, whenever something's very successful, someone else wants to do the same thing. That's still true today.
It was called Phantom Agents. The network had high hopes.
We used to watch that to get our fix of the samurai when it wasn't on. But I never quite liked it so much because it wasn't as, well, picturesque, because it was set in Tokyo in the 20th century and they looked like motorcycle cops.
You shouldn't have shot him. A gun's our last resort. Always remember, we're Phantom Agents. I still remember that. And, you know, they had all the samurai, but it was in modern day.
It was halfway interesting, but it certainly wasn't the samurai.
The show had several reruns, and I guess a lot of people then were sated with it and they found other things to be interested in.
In order to save Earth from the attacks of the Megolians, they must once more present the globe meter to one of their fellow creatures and send him to Earth.
But that wasn't the end of it. The success of the samurai had inspired programmers to try other Japanese films that once wouldn't have been considered.
There was a couple of movies that were shown on Saturday afternoon. Starman, who was this Japanese superhero, but he was a little portly, which was kind of funny because he had the full body stocking on. If Starman, you know, turned side on, you sort of go, wow, Starman, you got to lay off on those Kirin beers, you know what I mean?
Shintaro, Koga Ninja, what are you trying to do?
It was only the samurai with Shintaro and his ninjas that really clicked. Even now, more than 3 decades later, it still connects with its old audience. Gary was part of a samurai season that toured the country showing old episodes.
This was from one of the shows that we did at the Valhalla Cinema. Every show we did was a sellout, smash success. Wonderfully done.
I knew that there was a large fan base out there of my age group, the baby boomer age group, that would definitely be interested in revisiting the Samurai. And they all came out of the woodwork when it was announced that we were putting it out, and the initial sales were most encouraging on every one of the series that I put out, all 6 series. So there was definitely a base of somewhere around 1,000 people who would automatically buy each of the box sets that were released.
You couldn't have fitted a cigarette paper between the people in the cinema. It was absolutely packed. They were hanging from the rafters. There were people my age who had seen it when they were little kids at school. Their sons, their sons' sons, their sons' sons' sons. There were generations of people. It was the most incredible afternoon. The samurai feeling of all the people in that cinema. There was a golden halo right around the whole cinema of samurai memory. It was incredible.
There's a sushi restaurant in Parramatta Road, Annandale, that I went to quite frequently. Wonderful sushi. There is a photo of Shintaro autographed to the owner of the bar. There's an interesting thing with anyone who's been a fan of the samurai. You have this brotherhood thing. So immediately he and I got along like a house on fire. I went, "You've got the photo of Shintaro?" He's gone, "Yes, I saw him here. I saw him at Sydney Stadium. Oh my God." Fans like Gary, though, have made a much closer personal connection.
I was in Japan and I got to meet Shintaro. I went to his office. He had phone calls on my behalf for a week. So when I got to his office, I was taken in by his staff and he was sitting at his desk, sitting back, puffing on a cigarette like a very successful businessman. And I stood at the door and he must have been waiting for something, heaven knows what. But after a pregnant pause, he turned around and looked. And I was just standing shaking my head. And he looked a little bit concerned. And I said, "Shintaro Akikusa." Well, Shintaro was really, really chuffed. He was absolutely incredulous. He was expecting anything on earth but except a fan from 40 years ago. We went to dinner the next night at his request. It was a wonderful restaurant, a very special restaurant, invitation only.
Wow, looks good.
So I met all of his friends. And at the end of the night, after I had said, "I've got to go, I've got to go, I've got to go," and he said, "No, no, no, wait. And I suddenly had this in my hand. And I thought, now, what can that be? And I said to my friend, "What have I got?" He said, "That says Osekawich," which was his stage name. There were tags on the top from an airline. So I opened it. Osekawich again on the inside. But when I looked at what was inside, this is what I discovered. The wig worn by Osekawich as Shintaro Akikusa, tied with special paper wraps to protect it from any evil that might become. I couldn't possibly accept that. I handed it back instantly. He insisted that after 40 years of such fanhood, I should have his wig. So, I am happy to say that I am now the proud possessor of the hair of Shintaro Akikusa.
All good things come to an end. In the last episode, Tombe wakes to find a letter. Shintaro was gone. The Samurai played for 10 series on Australian and Japanese television. It lasted till the late 70s. But by then, a new generation wanted something different.
It was more than just a children's television show. It was written at various levels that obviously entranced lots of adults who could see, greater themes going on behind the obvious.
It was the complete introduction of a completely different culture to people who'd never seen anything like it before.
We were all looking for something a little bit different. Not necessarily another group of long-haired blokes playing guitars to annoy our parents.
It was totally different from what we knew, which had been all sort of European and American influenced. It was a mixture of ancient and the Wild West.
The medieval romance, the epic storytelling that I really liked. It was very, Lord of the Rings in its sort of scale and the scope of the storytelling.
It was a turning point in Australian history, social history, and I don't think that's an overstatement.
It actually opened up a different world to you, which is a legitimate culture, which hopefully one day I'll find out more about. So in that sense, I think it was a wonderful thing. It really was. It was certainly better than McCall's Navy in that respect.
隠密研修をご覧になっていただきましたオーストラリアのファンの皆さん、こんな年を取った秋草慎太郎ですが、今後もどうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Shintaro, thank you.
Arigato gozaimasu for giving me such a wonderful childhood.
Dude, you rocked.
What a wonderful man and what a wonderful series.
You were real in my life as a 9-year-old boy.
I thought you were great.
The messages and principles that you taught me, I've carried on for the rest of my life.
And may your sword stay sharp, my friend. Hats off.